Hello and welcome to Meldon Law and Friends, a service of Meldon Law, a statewide law firm with its primary office in Gainesville and also with an office in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, covering the entire Tri-County area, Miami-Dade County, Broward County, and Palm Beach County, and also with an office in Ocala and Marion County. Today is Friday, December 18th, 2020. We got a huge day tomorrow, Jeffrey Meldon, and we've got a great guest to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's bigger than Florida playing Alabama in the SEC championship?
And we've got an expert on that subject, a guy who's been a personal hero of mine, Shane Matthews. I'm so honored to have you as part of this program.
Well, I'm glad to be here. You know, I appreciate Meldon Law being a part of my podcast.
That's right. Yeah, we both have podcasts. I understand it's your 1-year anniversary coming up here.
We've been plugging away for a year. You know, Weeby Marketing that puts the whole thing together has done a tremendous job, and it's gotten better over the months, and, you know, we're going to have bigger and better things in the future. So
tell us a little bit about the podcast, how it got started, and I know it's got a huge following, over 100,000 viewers and listeners.
Yeah, it's grown. You know, I have no background in radio or anything, just being a former athlete. I guess when you're done playing, they kind of stick you on radio shows here and there.
They think you know what you're talking about, right?
Well, he obviously does.
Well, we do. We all have our own opinions, right? So I do some pregame shows with Steve Russell, and then postgame on Mondays after the Gators play, and did that for about 6 or 7 years. And then Freddie Weeby put together our Inside the Huddle podcast that we started last year. It was Steve Russell, myself, and Coach Spurrier. A one-day deal each week. And after the football season was over, Freddie kind of approached me and said, look, you need to do your own podcast. I'm like, no, I have no background in this. You know, I'm usually the guy that kind of just answers questions. I don't run the show. So it was rough at the beginning, but it's gotten better, and I'm a lot more comfortable doing it now.
Yeah, this is our 8th show. It's taken us a few times to work out the kinks, but we're getting there.
What time does the show go live?
It's live on Facebook Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. And it's on, you know, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Podcasts, all that stuff I don't really know much about. But I got a great group that does all of that. And so you can watch it live. And then if you can't watch it at those times, you can always go back and watch it.
Yeah, from what I understand, most viewers actually watch it at some other time than the live show.
Right. Yeah, you know, I think it varies. We got quite a few that I guess they tune in the mornings while they're getting ready for work or what have you. And, you know, we take questions and comments on Facebook. So it's a lot of fun.
We're going to go live eventually. So we'll try that out. Shane, obviously this is a weekend tomorrow. The Florida playing Alabama once again for the SEC championship. And most Gator fans know, maybe some don't, you had a very pivotal role in that very first Florida-Alabama SEC championship, which was the first time ever that there had been a team versus team for a conference championship in Division I, correct?
Yeah, it was. You know, at that time, Roy Kramer was the commissioner of the SEC, and that's when, that year in '92, they added South Carolina and Arkansas to the SEC to put 14 teams. So that's where they went to the East and the West divisions. Right. And they put together this you know, game at the end. They called it the SEC Championship game. It was being played in Birmingham. And we found we weren't very good my senior year. This is in 1992. We started the year at 1-2, had lost to Mississippi State and Tennessee, but we got better. And we won the East somehow. Mm-hmm. Of course, Alabama went undefeated, won the West. They were the #1 team in America. And so we met Alabama in the first ever game there in Birmingham at Legion Field. And, you know, the coaches didn't really like this concept.
It was controversial, right?
Very controversial because normally, you know, if you're the #1 team in the country, and especially if you win the SEC, you're penciled in to go to the Sugar Bowl. And Alabama was undefeated. And so they had to play this one extra game, another extra SEC conference game. And like I said, our record wasn't great. We had 3 or 4 losses at the time.
I think you were 8-3, but they were 11-0.
Correct. Yeah. And, you know, they had us 21-7. And, you know, it was about 75,000 people at Birmingham at Legion Field.
That made it worse. It's in Alabama.
Right. We only had, our little section was about 5,000 people. Right. So it was very loud. But we came back and tied it up at 21.
I remember it well. Eric Bret, you had a touchdown to him.
It got very quiet.
Yeah.
And then we got the ball back with about a little over 2 minutes, and some guy threw an interception to the wrong team. And
Antonio Langham.
Yeah. And, you know, what's funny about that, you know, quarterbacks, we throw a ton of interceptions in our career, whether it's high school, college ball, pro ball.
Right.
That is the only one in my career that was ever run back for a touchdown. Either I've made the tackle or one of my teammates always made the tackle.
But they say that's the play that saved college football, believe it or not. Maybe you can explain that.
Yeah, well, they did a documentary. I think it was the first documentary that ESPN 30 for 30 series, and they called it The Play That Changed College Football. Because they say that if we would have won that game and upset the #1 team in America, that they would have said, this is a dumb idea. We're not doing this anymore. But I guess the only good thing about that interception is now we have all these championship games around college football.
Yeah, well, and for those of you that don't know, back then Alabama ruled the college football politics, and that's why the game was in Birmingham, Alabama, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
They only did it there 2 years, and then I think they thought it was smart to move to Atlanta, which was a really good idea.
So what do you, with all your experience, I know you've been a coach and are still a coach, in fact, what do you say to the Gators? Tomorrow they're playing in Atlanta. Again, they're going to be huge underdogs. They are huge underdogs. They're, once again, much like you, all those years ago, they're playing a team that's heavily favored. What do you say to the team?
Well, you just need to go out there and play your game, and we have nothing to lose. You know, losing to LSU was a devastating loss, but it is what it is. You got to move forward, and everybody expects Alabama to win this game, but you never know. They turned the football over, kind of how we did against LSU, something uncharacteristic. You just never know what may happen. That's why you go play the game. But it should be a lot of fun. I think we can move the football on them. I don't know if we can stop them because they have maybe the best college offense I've ever seen. But it should be fun. There's no better atmosphere than the SEC championship game, although it'll be a little different this year with only about, 15,000, 16,000 people. But shoot, that's why you suit up and go play. You never know what might happen.
Anything can happen. So, we're, I think, a 2-touchdown underdog. But like you say, turnovers happen, and all of a sudden the game changes, and a couple plays, and next thing you know, you're in the game.
Yep.
What do you say, and maybe you have said privately, what do you say to Kyle Trask? You know, he, of course, has been in the Heisman conversation for the last several weeks, had a little bit of an off game, although on paper it still looked pretty darn good. He threw for 474 yards against LSU, accounted for all 4 of the Gator touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 by passing. What do you say to him? You know, he, of course, had that devastating interception, returned for a touchdown. What do you say to him to buck up and get ready for this?
Well, I mean, Kyle's going to go do what he does. He's had a phenomenal career. You know, his story is outstanding.
It is, yeah.
Great kid. It's just one of those games. You know, statistically, it looked great. You know, he made a couple of mistakes that gave 10 points to LSU, but it happens. Just put it behind you and go play, and don't worry about all the Heisman hype. If you go play your game, you may win it. You never know how they're going to vote anyway.
Sure.
You can't control it. Some of these people voting don't need to be voting. But I know. He's had a great career, and just go out and play your game.
You know, Shay, it's interesting you say that because Pat Dooley was on the show last week, and he's one of the Heisman voters, and he said there were like 900 voters, and he said a lot of them don't really follow football and really don't know what they're talking about.
They probably call another voter, or they look on the internet and see who they should vote for.
Yeah, now Pat said he is absolutely focused in on watching 2 or 3 college games at a time on Saturday, and he feels like he's qualified because he takes it seriously. But, I think the, Alabama quarterback's going to have a good shot if they win. But I think if the Gators pull an upset and Trask does really well, he's going to be in that conversation.
No, you're exactly right. And it would not shock me if Devontae Smith, their wide receiver, doesn't win the award. He's the best player in my opinion.
He's incredible, yeah.
But you talk about the voting. It was interesting in my years in the NFL because I love college football. It doesn't matter who's playing. I'll watch it. I'd rather watch Rice and TCU play than watch a Monday night football game. I just love the passion of college football. But I can't tell you how many Heisman Trophy winners that were teammates of mine in the NFL would come up to me going, give me some ideas of who I should vote for.
Really?
Because you'd be surprised at how many guys don't watch college football, that even though they played it and maybe won the most prestigious award. But, yeah, I used to give them my opinions all the time.
So, you know what? We were talking about Pat Dooley being on a week or so ago. He said something interesting that made me think of you at the time he said it. He talked about how he came here in 1987, thought he'd only stayed for maybe 3 or 4 years. Then all of a sudden, 1990 happened. And the Gators started winning with this guy from Mississippi, kind of coming from the back of the pack. Most people hadn't heard of him, and all of a sudden, that first game against Oklahoma State, you take the team down the field. We're now the fun and gun.
Yeah.
What was that first year like?
Well, it was incredible. I mean, I tell people a lot of times that if Coach Spurrier doesn't come here, heck, I may have been in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, if they had it back then, I probably would have transferred, but my parents didn't want me to. But yeah, it was. He changed my entire career. I mean, I got an opportunity to play 3 years for him and then play 14 years in the league. And but yeah, that first game, he caught a lot of grief from the Bull Gators around the state for announcing a kid to be the starting quarterback who never taken a college snap. And but he and I think a lot alike, and it just worked out well. And like you said, that Oklahoma State game, we score
50-7, I think was the score.
You're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
We scored in the first 5 plays of the game, and the rest was kind of history.
Well, tell me what it's like, having Spurrier as your coach for 3 years. What was the dynamics? I mean, you were what, 18, 19-year-old kid, and you have this, Heisman Trophy winner and legend and stuff.
Well, what's interesting is, and I grew up in an Ole Miss family. My dad played at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
They thought I was going to go there. Archie Manning was his quarterback, so Archie was my hero. But when I was here at Florida, there was nothing in the south end zone locker rooms. There were no Heisman trophies. There were no pictures. When Steve Spurrier got hired, I'd never heard of him. Mm-hmm. Honestly, and I was a huge football fan. So I learned a lot about him, and then, he and I think a lot alike. He's a coach that strives for perfection, but he understands it's impossible to play the quarterback position and be perfect. He knows you're going to make mistakes.
I know one thing he brought was tempo, at least on that first drive. I remember it. No huddle, every play, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I mean, he was way ahead of times when he got here. The SEC didn't know what to do, but just the way he taught things was what was really cool to me. He explained it, and then he would coach it. It was a very complicated system, but very simple. He made it easy. And, there's some coaches out there that have these complicated systems, and they keep them complicated. But his was very, very simple, and it was very quarterback friendly.
Well, a lot of folks say that, he changed the face of college football.
Oh, he did, for sure.
Yeah, and that, you were, his quarterback doing it. So that really is kind of a special moment in the history of college football. What are your perspectives on that?
Well, he definitely changed the way the SEC was played, and it took a lot of people a long time to catch up with him. I was blessed to be his first quarterback and his only quarterback he never benched. Now, I don't know if that's because there was nobody behind me worth a darn to put in the game, but my first 3 years, that 90 team is very special to him.
I'm sure.
It is to me as well. We laid the foundation for what came after us. It'd been kind of cool to be able to come in about the 5th or 6th year he was coaching here, because he did a tremendous job, recruiting and getting all these great players in there, and we'd had a chance to win a national title. Because that's every kid's goal.
Well, like you said, then when he left, he said, "Well, the other teams around here are now throwing that ball around the ballpark too." Yeah. So he really changed that 3 yards in a cloud of dust mentality to where now Tennessee, of course, with Peyton and others, and other teams were throwing the ball around, and you had a lot to do with setting that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he was blowing people out, and they had to do something to change. Herschel and Bo Jackson, right and left, and even before he got here, it was Emmett right, Emmett left.
Emmett right, Emmett left.
You had to get the quarterback involved.
We got to take a break, but we'll be right back with Shane Matthews. Great episode, Jeffrey, and again, you're watching Meldon Law and Friends, a service of Meldon Law, a statewide law firm. Been practicing in Gainesville, now in its sixth decade of operations, started in the early 70s. We also have an office in Fort Lauderdale covering the entire Tri-County area, Miami-Dade County, Broward, and Palm Beach. And we also have an office in Ocala. Take a look at our website, www.meldonlaw.com. Our primary practice areas are personal injury cases and also criminal defense cases. We'll be right back with Gator legends Shane Matthews.
The Meldon Law Firm from the beginning has been built on giving back to the community. I enjoy coming to work as much today as I did in 1971 when I opened my practice. I don't look at this as a job. I look at it as serving other people while we're alive, what better feeling can you achieve than knowing that you've helped other people and thereby you enrich your own life?
Well, I was in a truck accident. Because of the accident, I've resulted in 3 back surgeries. We saw advertisements on TV, and guess who popped up more often than not? It was Jeffrey. The communication that he provided was so appreciative. He shows his compassion as a human. He assisted us in achieving one of our dreams, the acquisition of a home, and we're here today with smiles on our face with the assistance from Jeffrey.
Hello and welcome back to Meldon Law and Friends, a service of Meldon Law. Today is Friday, December 18th, 2020, the day before the big SEC championship game, Florida Gators versus Alabama Crimson Tide. Jeffrey, it's a great episode today. We've got another Gator great. We had the head ball coach a couple of weeks ago. We had Pat Dooley, writer extraordinaire. This is getting pretty cool.
I think we're doing great. I want to thank our producer, Freddie Weeby, for helping us put all this together. And doing this podcast has turned out to be a blast.
It really has been. And Freddie was telling us that I think the one with the head ball coach, we've got well over 30,000 views, maybe a lot more. We want to remind everybody, he's gesturing to me, 50,000. Is that right? 50,000 views. How about that? And we urge you to watch us on Facebook, at the Meldon Law Facebook page. We're also on many other platforms for audio only. We're on Apple Music, Spotify, Google, a number of other things.
And YouTube.
Also on YouTube. But please take a look at the Facebook page first. And we so much appreciate all of you who've been following us. And pretty soon, we're going to have a subscription type thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to make it easy for everyone to follow us every week, because we really are going to have some phenomenal guests. And it's not just sports folks. It's going to be a little bit of everything. And that's why we call it Meldon Law and Friends. Whoever we happen to know around the community, we say, come on down, hang out for a while.
So Shane, again, I've got to say, at the risk of sounding like a fanboy, I'm just so excited you're here. I am so honored. You're a personal hero of mine, because I know I'm just one of many, many Gator fans. I was in my early 30s, when you first came, or you first became the starting quarterback, I should say, and just turned everything around. Between you and Coach Spurrier, I know I speak for so many people who are in Gator Nation worldwide that you really were part of just getting this whole thing changed. But I know you're giving it back now. You've been a coach for several years. So let's talk about you as a coach.
Well, I coached my son. Once I was done playing ball in 06, I did all the flag football, the T-ball, all that stuff. And
I even did that.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it. And then I started being a volunteer coach at Buchholz and Gainesville High. I got to call the plays for several years. Had the all-time leading passer at Buchholz, Jackson White, who his dad was a coach here under Irvin Brian White, went on to Marshall. He's actually now a coach at South Carolina, or was a coach at South Carolina. I don't know if he's still there or not. And then I was fortunate to coach my son at Gainesville High, who's the all-time leading passer there, who's now a redshirt freshman at Florida. So
who looks exactly like you.
Well, unfortunately, he didn't get my height.
Same number, same haircut. Yeah. I look at him in the program. I said, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well,
no doubt who his father is.
Yeah, he's a good kid. Had a great high school career, and loves playing for Dan Mullen and Brian Johnson and being a part of the Gator program.
And I think we'd be remiss to say, for those who don't know, Shane played 14 years in the National Football League. So for the viewers who may not know, let's talk about a few of your stops in the NFL.
Well, somehow I played 14 years. The average career of an NFL guy is like 2.5 years. So I beat the system somehow. I was in Chicago for 4 years, went to Carolina for 2, back to Chicago for 3, Washington 1 year with Coach Spurrier. Then I went to Cincinnati for a year, Buffalo for 2 years, and my last year in 06 was with Saban down in Miami. So
wow,
didn't play a whole lot. I think I started 35 games in 14 years. So
that's a solid career.
Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, let me ask you, Shane, what were your perspectives on the different coaches in the NFL you worked at? Who did you like the best, the least, things like that?
God, that's a great question. I mean, I enjoyed my time in Washington. Coach Spurrier and I butted heads a little more than at the professional level than we did in college.
Well, even had Danny Werfel for a quarterback 1 year there too.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that, and then probably my 2 favorite years were in Buffalo with Mike Malarkey, former Gator,
right,
who was the head coach.
Yeah.
You know, he was a great coach because at that most of the time my kids would come up wherever city I played in. They would come up at the end of training camp, the end of August, go to school wherever it was until Thanksgiving, then come back to Gainesville and go to school. So they loved it because I played in all these damn cold weather cities. So they got to experience snow. Well, later in my career, you know, it's always that point where you think you're not going to play anymore. So you get that last call, like the last preseason game. Well, Malarkey signed me the last preseason game. And I was like, look, I don't have a place to live. So I lived out of a hotel by the Buffalo airport. But he let me fly home back to Gainesville after every game on Sunday, regardless of where it was in the country. He said, just be back for the 8 a.m. Wednesday team meeting. So it was great. So I did that for 2 years.
Great gig.
Yeah. You know, some coaches do that, some don't. But, you know, I'd been in the league for 12 years, so he didn't really care as long as I showed up on time.
What was the best team you played?
I played for some bad teams. Some really bad teams. But I played I went to the not the NFC Championship game, but the game before the NFC Championship game with the Bears.
Okay.
We lost to the Eagles, but that was the year the Eagles went and played the Patriots in the Super Bowl in Jacksonville.
Well, that's amazing because 14 years is almost a record. I mean, there's just a few players that play more than 7 or 8 years. And when you get to 10 or 12 or 14 years, that's amazing.
What?
And, you know, I think, you know, you were a special player. I know that the coaches had confidence in you as a backup quarterback in the event that their star quarterback, you know, got injured or didn't do well. So how did you deal with that role, knowing that you were oftentimes the backup quarterback?
Well, I was pretty much a backup my entire career. But, you know, when you get to that level, you got to understand it's a business. So if they draft a kid in the first round, he's going to be playing no matter what you've done. And, you know, I was fortunate back then. I don't anymore. But I don't know if I had a photographic memory, but I was one who never had to study their playbook. When they install the plays, like the first couple of days of training camp, once I saw the play and the coaches on the board writing what everybody's responsibility is, I knew exactly what everybody had to do and never had to look at it again. And so I think that's why the way my mind worked when it came to football and play calling and understanding concepts, that's why the coaches trusted me and kept me on rosters, because the backup gets no work at practice. You stand around, your back hurts from standing all day, and it's just you're like an extra coach. So with me being able to learn a playbook literally in like an hour, I think that allowed me to play 14 years.
Any particular memory you have of having to come off the bench quickly, abruptly, because somebody went down and jump into a situation?
Well, that did happen, but the strangest thing that happened to me was the year I was telling you that I thought I was retiring. This was in 2004, and I got the call from the Buffalo Bills because Drew Bledsoe was their starter, but he tweaked an ankle or something in the third preseason game, and so they needed another quarterback. So the last preseason game before the regular season start is always on a Thursday night. They fly me in on Wednesday. I go through the walkthrough, and then they go, "You're starting tomorrow night." I go, "What?" You know, I hadn't really thrown a ball in like 5 months. And so I got their playbook, and I basically had about 15 plays. I said, okay, these are the ones that you can call. And they used their terminology. I had to learn their terminology real quick. But it was like I take that play, and in my mind, I would think, okay, it's this play. This is what we ran at Florida. This is how they call it at Buffalo. But that was the strangest thing. I mean, I flew in, didn't know anybody on the team, and didn't even know their snap count. Wow. I just went on. We had to play at Detroit, so I just went on the silent snap count where you raise your leg out of the shotgun. And actually played pretty well.
All right.
A better preseason game.
Well, I think we should also mention that you certainly have been recognized for your achievements, particularly here at Florida. You have been inducted into the UF Athletic Hall of Fame, obviously very deserved. And also you've been inducted into the Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame, given the success you had in those games. I remember that 90 team. You guys came out and you beat the pants off Georgia pretty good. Yeah,
you know, I went into, I think you can't go into the UF Hall of Fame until you're out for 10 years. So I think I went in 2002. It was pretty cool. It was a great event. I mean, it's an honor that it's one of the greatest of all that I've had my entire life. the Florida Georgia Hall of Fame. Coach Spurrier, they do 2 Florida guys and 2 Georgia guys each year. Coach Spurrier and I were the first ones to go in for Florida. I don't remember what year it was.
Wow.
I didn't get to experience that because they did it. I was playing at the time, so I didn't get to go to the banquet or to the Florida Georgia game. But the Florida Georgia rivalry has been very important.
So let's remind the viewers and our listeners who are on the audio part of the podcast where they can watch your. It's a daily podcast, right?
Yeah, Monday through Friday. It's called PodUp with Matthews in the morning. And you can check it out on Facebook anytime. We're live from 8 to 9. And then we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And, Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators.
Yes, we are. Thank you for reminding us to say that.
Big sponsor for our show. We appreciate it.
We're very proud to announce that we finally, have inked the deal, and we are the only.
No, we've been doing this for a few weeks, but it's all right.
The only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, and really, having spent my whole adult life in Gainesville, it's a great honor to be chosen by the Florida Gators to partner with them and to give back to our community in many ways.
At the game last Saturday, with all that fog and everything, I couldn't see all the plays going on the field, but I sure could see Meldon Law, we won't back down on the electronic board. Again, you have been watching and are watching Meldon Law and Friends, a weekly podcast brought to you by Meldon Law with offices in Gainesville and also in South Florida, covering the entire South Florida area, Miami-Dade County, Broward, and Palm Beach, and also in Marion County. Gator Nation is everywhere, and Meldon Law is so proud to be part of that. Take a look at us on the World Wide Web at www.meldonlaw.com or give us a call anytime, toll free, wherever you are, 800-373-8000. Shane, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been a real honor for us.
I appreciate the invite. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, we look forward to having you again, Shane.
Yes, sir.
All right. And hopefully things will work out tomorrow. You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Play the game.
We'll be right back. Thanks so much for watching.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 2 herniated discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
And I was in an accident. Someone ran a red light and hit me, and I was hurt. You don't know where to turn. Luckily, I called Jeffrey. These big insurance companies, they don't want you to win. They truly don't. But Jeffrey and his firm and the people that work here, they just really fight for you. You call the law offices of Jeffrey Meldon because you're going to need help, and they will help you.
Being a client at Meldon Law was special because I felt like I was really being listened to, and I felt welcome by the entire staff. If I were in a situation where I needed legal advice and help, I would absolutely reach out to Jeffrey because his reputation alone speaks for itself. But on a personal level, I know that he would take care of me and help me solve those problems, and I would feel safe with him.
Hello and welcome back to Meldon Law and Friends, a weekly podcast brought to you by Meldon Law, a statewide law firm with its primary office in Gainesville and also covering the entire South Florida area. We have an office in Fort Lauderdale covering the Tri-County, Miami-Dade County, Broward County, and Palm Beach County. And of course, we also have our office in Marion County in Ocala. Today is Friday, December 18th. And Jeffrey, we've had a great show so far, and we've got some pretty cool guys here that we're going to be talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the baristas of coffee from Gainesville, Florida.
Or is that baristas, or is it barista? I never get that right.
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyhow.
We'll go with baristas, yeah.
I want to welcome everybody to the coffee talk hour here because I love coffee. Okay, every morning.
So do I. Even if I'm not supposed to drink it, he knows I love it too. So that's why I'm so happy to have these guys here.
I mean, I go and I grind my beans for a double espresso, and I,
He's not kidding.
Oh, nice.
pound it in, and then I take it and I put a little bit of sugar in the thing, and I make my coffee. So whenever I have coffee guys around, I absolutely love it. I'm in heaven. So I want to welcome Tim and Bret Larson from Opus Coffee to our show. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Yeah, glad to be here. So I'm Tim. We started Opus Coffee in 2002, and we moved up to Gainesville, Florida, especially to start the business.
Hi, and my name's Bret. Tim's my older brother, and again, yeah, we moved here from Miami just to start a coffee business, and 18 years later, we're.
So how do you like living and working in Gainesville? You've been here a while, so I guess you've kicked the tires. You know what it's like. How's that been working out for you?
Yeah, well, so the first several years when you get up here, like everyone, they only think they're going to be here for a few years. Mm-hmm. But now it's been going on 18 years. We love it. In the middle of Gator country, nature is not far away. Sports, small business, we love it all. So, yeah.
How did you wind up picking Gainesville?
So our part-time job in the late 90s, early 2000s was at a coffee shop in South Miami Hospital. And then one day we looked at each other. We knew we could start our own. Shortly thereafter, we made proposal books and just took a road trip. So we dropped off proposal books at a lot of the different hospitals around Florida, a lot of the larger ones. But it just so happens that when we stopped in Gainesville, Florida, UF Health was looking for a coffee company to open in the exact time that we dropped off the proposal book. So it was only a few months later, we packed up everything in the U-Haul and drove up from Miami and opened up. So,
wow.
Yeah.
All of our equipment was in our parents' garage, so they were happy to see us go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about time now to leave.
Great.
My dad was crying. My kids are leaving, but I have my garage back.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, people don't realize how big the UF Health system is and how much they need coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like exponentially a bit larger since we've opened. So, now we have 6 coffee shops in UF Health buildings as well. And we also roast all of our own coffee and re-roast about 2,000 pounds of coffee a week.
You actually take the raw beans and you roast them. You're not importing, pre-roasted beans. You're doing everything here in Gainesville.
Right. And yeah, the coffee that you're drinking at our locations are roasted about 2 days ago, which is very unusual in a lot of these coffee shops and such. And a lot of them, you have coffee sent over by mail. Ours is literally comes 3 blocks away from our roasting facility. So
I understand there's a certain prime sweet spot as far as when to make the coffee, when to roast it, and what's the time frame from the time that you roast coffee until it should be drank.
Yeah, no, you touched on a very good point. There is a thing where coffee is too fresh. When it comes from the roaster, you want to let it rest. You want to let it degas. And a lot of times the
kind of like with wine, you let it breathe.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So specifically, you really want to let it sit for about 2 to 3 days before you even grind the coffee. Because there's a point where if you grind the coffee, or if you make a coffee drink, it'll start bubbling up, it'll start degassing, and it won't taste right because some of the flavors haven't developed. So about 2 to 3 days, I'd maybe let the coffee rest, and then when it's whole bean, you can drink it up to. Our coffee is pretty much off the all drink pretty quickly, but 14, 15, 2 to 3 weeks.
What if it's
maximum.
vacuum sealed?
Yeah.
Does that make a difference?
Yeah, vacuum sealed obviously does make a difference. There's 2 things that coffee hates: it's air and light. So so it's important that you vacuum seal, remove all of the air, as well as keep it in a dark cupboard as well.
So I've heard that there's some coffee shops, I think Starbucks, and I've heard they'll say, well, they over roasted or they roasted too much.
I think they do, but what do you say?
Yeah, they.
Go ahead.
No, I think they do, but they also have. I think a lot of the customers really like the darker roasted coffees, and I think that's what gravitates towards them. We very rarely do we roast our coffee that dark.
They also, it's been said too, they roast that dark as well for uniformity between all of their coffee shops too. So they roast out a lot of the flavors.
Well, let me ask you something, because this is what's been on my mind, and just to give you a plug that you well deserve, I've been drinking your coffee. I've been to several of your locations. I've been to the one at the Spring Hill UF Health Hospital, and it's great. I love Opus Coffee. I love what you guys are doing locally. What, though, motivated you to get into a business that obviously is very competitive? I mean, even in 2002, maybe that was before all these unique specialty coffee shops became so popular, but obviously there were tons of coffee out there. What made you think that you could do something better and different from the rest?
Well, I was 20, my brother was 22 at the time, so maybe it was...
Needed a job, let's sell coffee.
Yeah, you know...
exactly.
The research to about whether to start a coffee shop probably took about 4 minutes. We knew that.
I was thinking 4 months. 4 minutes is great.
Yeah. Well, we knew that in the late 90s, early 2000s, and Starbucks was already in existence, of course, but
Barney's and all these
Barney's,
others,
yes, exactly. But they weren't in these niche spots like like the campuses in medical facilities or anything like that. And so we had an in, we had an in with UF Health, and we knew how to run a business like that. And so that's just what we decided to do. We knew that the capital investment was lower, and therefore like the risk was lower too. So turns out you also don't have to fix broken air conditioners or clean bathrooms. So it was great. So,
I like that. Yeah. So that when you were in South Florida, Miami, I think you were working in a hospital in a coffee shop setting, right?
That is correct, yes. Yeah, it was a coffee shop in South Miami Hospital. That is right.
And so you go, oh, this is a niche that I might be able to.
That's correct.
Fill.
And I see that you don't just sell coffee. You guys do have loose leaf teas, and I'm reading here from your bio that you, in fact, are one of the first companies to not just brew, but also keg your own nitro-owned cold brew, as you call it. So maybe explain that.
Yeah, so similar to a Guinness, we actually a cold brew coffee where it's just we basically ground a coffee really coarse. We add cold water to it, stick it in the refrigerator for about 18 to 20 hours.
Yeah, but so it saturates like overnight, like fully in the grinds.
And then we filter it. We have this
special
filtration system, and then we put in kegs, and we actually have keg readers at each of our locations. We have it on tap. It kind of comes out similar to like a Guinness, where it's cascading and it's very bubbly. And then at a couple of our locations, we make specialty drinks, specialty nitro drinks,
concoctions. So one we have is it's called we call it something different at several locations. But one of them, it's called the Panama Go, and what it is, it's
Panama Go.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. Go ahead.
And so it's half nitro cold brew, half fresh lemonade, pineapple, and a cherry. And it's one of the most amazing things you've ever had.
It's unusually refreshing. It's you taste it and you're like, wow, this.
It's like an Arnold Palmer, but with coffee instead of tea. So that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Do any of your beverages have alcohol in them?
So
take a deep breath.
We have paired up with First Magnitude, and we have done a coffee beer with them. A couple of times.
Coffee beer.
Coffee beer.
That's going to be popular in this town. Trust me.
And then as well as there's a
Madrina's.
TJ over at Madrina's has a coffee cocktail as well with our coffee, which is delicious.
Well, good. Well, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, right? Morning and night.
Well, I mean, one kind of gets you up and the other kind of brings you down, and so you're flying.
That's balanced, exactly. Right? Yeah.
I was asking you guys this before we started. Some of us might be on diets that require a low acid coffee. So do you have a product that would be suitable for people in such a situation?
Yeah, so the nitro cold brewed, because it's cold brewed where it doesn't really touch the hot water. It basically the hot water brings out the acidity in the coffee, but because it doesn't touch any of the hot water, it's only cold water. A lot of the acidity stays in the grounds. So the nitro cold brew will actually it's less acidic. It's a very smooth taste. So it doesn't have any of the acidity notes that people may not necessarily want.
Okay.
Well, that's great. So at home, I have one of these, I think you pronounce it Breville coffee makers,
great.
right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
It's a nice one, trust me.
And, I'm always, looking at the pressure meter
Correct.
and how all that. Give me some tips. Like, what are some inside tips as far as how to make my coffee better?
So do you steam milk as well at home at your house?
My
Okay.
wife does.
Okay.
I don't.
What is your pressure meter? What does it go to?
I don't know the number of it,
Okay.
but I know if it goes to the middle or to the top.
Yeah. So, in my opinion,
Yeah.
fresh coffee beans. Don't buy anything at the store. Buy something at our coffee shop. Our beans will just taste better, and your coffee machine will like it a lot more.
Yeah, ideally you're looking for something around 9 bars of pressure in the machine, which it's difficult for home machines to get that high of that much of a pressure. So as high as you can before your machine blows up, as I would say, is the correct pressure. So
Yeah.
Guys, we got to take a break in just a minute. This is a great conversation. I love your coffee. I love your energy. And one thing we're going to talk about when we come back after the break is the 4th Avenue Food Park in Gainesville, the instrumental role that your company has had in rebuilding an area and just making it very, very vital and lively. So we're going to talk about that after the break. You are watching Meldon Law and Friends, a weekly podcast brought to you by Meldon Law and this man, Jeffrey Meldon. We are in our 6th decade of operation. He started practicing in the early 70s. Our primary practice areas are personal injury law as well as criminal defense cases. Please take a look at our website, www.meldonlaw.com. We also have a monthly newsletter that we put out. Give our office a call, 1-800-373-8000. You don't have to be a client. We'd be happy to put you on our newsletter list. Lots of great information, much like this. It's friendly. We have recipes. We have puzzles. Lots of useful information about the COVID crisis and many other things. And also, we have a weekly radio show that we want you to check out as well. It's live on the World Wide Web. You can go to, it's WSKY-FM 97.3, their website out of Gainesville. We are on at 10:30 every Saturday morning. Jeffrey, myself, and others talking about personal injury cases, insurance, many other things. We'll be right back with Meldon Law and Friends.
I've done mornings here on Sky Radio for 17 years. Jeffrey Meldon started doing his weekend show here 16 years ago. One of the things that separates Jeffrey is I don't see him out there hollering for people's business. I see him out there investing in the community. He's touched a lot of lives, and a lot of it he'll never know what a difference he made in somebody's life about information that he has shared on the air.
I was riding as a passenger in my friend's vehicle. A fellow ran a stop sign and we T-boned him. Had neck and shoulder and knee injuries and didn't know what to do, and I remember seeing one of Jeffrey's ads. So I gave him a call. He explained everything to me. I'd go see him and everything was done. Everything was taken care of. Don't waste your time with anybody else. Go see Jeffrey.
Hello and welcome back to Meldon Law and Friends, your weekly podcast brought to you by Meldon Law, a statewide law firm with its primary office in Gainesville, also with an office in South Florida, covering the entire Tri-County South Florida area from Miami-Dade County through Broward County through Palm Beach County, and also with an office, a full-time staffed office in Marion County in Ocala. We've been talking with some pretty cool guys. The Larson brothers, Tim and Bret Larson, who are the owners of Opus Coffee in Gainesville. They've been giving us tips on how to brew the perfect cup of coffee. They've been telling us their story. But one thing I want to dive right into, guys, is you have been a very integral part of this whole 4th Avenue Food Park in Gainesville, revitalizing that area, partnering with other food companies. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was we started roasting coffee actually in 2009. If we take it back a second. And then in 2012, we were notified that the building we were roasting out of was going to be demolished for development. So we realized we needed a more permanent space to bring our roasting company so this wouldn't happen again. So we found this old building between UF and downtown. And we knew in time that it was going to be, it was going to be centrally located. And development was going to move east from UF and west from downtown. So we knew that in the future it was ideally located. So we bought that in 2012. In 2014, we purchased the property next to us. So then we had 2 acres in this ideal area, but it was very blighted at the time, even still, which was probably actually the only reason why we could afford it. So it was
good investment, right, Jeffrey?
Buy low, sell high, right?
So there was a lot of blight, but we knew that we wanted to keep the buildings as they were, keep it scalable, and we wanted to create a space for local food companies to come in and have a chance. Because as buildings were getting knocked down, they were getting priced out of the larger developments. So we helped renovate a lot of the earlier tenants that moved in. And we landscaped. It took several years to just get everything going. And what we created what was called the 4th Avenue Food Park. It has 7 tenants now, all food companies. And it is just a hopping place every day for lunch and on weekends too. So,
and who are some of the other tenants? I know there's the sausage company. And why don't you tell us who they are?
So Fehrenbacher Sausage, they do. They make everything in house, and they have sausages and lunch. Then we have, our coffee company. So our coffee company, that's where we roast. We have Baker, which is a local bakery. Satchel's Pizza opened their new concept, Satch Squared.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They've got a location there.
Yeah, exactly.
Satchel's has been there forever.
Yeah. So that's their Detroit-style pizza.
Detroit-style.
So good.
Check that out.
Well, if you know, Satchel used to work at Leonardo's 706, right?
Yep.
And that was Chicago-style pizza. So he figured he'd do his Detroit-style pizza.
We have Sublime Tacos.
Right, they're great too.
Humble Wood Fire does bagels there. And then we have the Opus Coffee 1976 Airstream, which we sell coffee out of.
Okay.
So
how'd you come up with the Airstream idea?
So the goal, we were going to put a shipping container, build a coffee shop in a shipping container, but the city, the list of things that we were going to be required to do from the city was about 4 pages too long. So we decided to get something on wheels, so we didn't have to go through all the development process.
So it's mobile. Mobile. Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody, the viewers, where can people get a cup of coffee, a great cup of Opus coffee, and where can people buy the product, buy the beans?
So if you visit any of our stores, you can get the product or beans. But also the best place to order coffee, like especially whole bean coffee, is opuscoffee.com. Or you can find it at restaurants around town. So we did lose a few of the restaurants in the pandemic, but the top, Papa Top, Madrina's, Daybreak, The Leaning Pig, First Magnitude Beers, and the future Spurrier's restaurant as well.
I heard a rumor about that. I didn't want to bring it up, but I heard this rumor.
I thought it was confirmed.
So,
Well, I think it's great, though, because, we had the head ball coach on here just a couple of weeks ago, and I know he's very committed to supporting local vendors and local products. I think that's terrific. If that happens, that's wonderful.
It's perfect.
And you guys also have a food park, right? There's a place where during the week people can go and say a little bit more, and maybe I missed that.
So that's what the 4th Avenue Food Park is.
Right.
That's the 4th. Yes, exactly.
That's what you meant. And of course, the different UF Health locations, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So, what are some of your favorite beans, your favorite roasts that you sell the most of, and people really rave about?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I like them all.
So I'll jump in. I really like our medium to medium dark. And so I really like the blends more than usually the origin coffees. The origin coffees, they are sometimes more flavorful, or they'll have distinguishing qualities.
Gotcha.
But with the blends, those are balanced out. So I really like the Misty Mountain and the Swamp Coast blend.
Misty Mountain. Did you name that after a Led Zeppelin song?
Misty Mountain. No comment.
So
sounds good to me.
Origin means it would be like this is from a single region, and
that's
only
correct.
one bean in it.
Yes,
and then the blends would be, a mixture of different origin coffees.
Yes.
Correct. That is correct.
But so when you go to the store, you see Ethiopian. Would that necessarily be a blend versus an origin coffee?
That's a great question. So if you go there and you see an Ethiopian coffee, a lot of times it's this coffee maybe pulled from a whole bunch of different farms all throughout the country. A lot of times what you see a little bit further, like say Ethiopia Yirgacheffe. That means it's from the region of Ethiopia. So your question earlier, one of my favorite coffees is from Ethiopia. It's this Ethiopia Yirgacheffe Beloya, which is actually it goes out even further from the Yirgacheffe. It's an even smaller city, I guess you can say. Which is a little bit of a lighter roast. It's delicious, but a lot of times you want to see like the words that are following like Ethiopia. Everybody has an Ethiopia coffee bean, right. But it's just a matter of where in Ethiopia is it from, and then even that, how much further can you go to actually pinpoint the exact spot?
So it's like a lot like wines in France. I mean, champagne can only be from a certain district.
That's correct. Yes,
and within that district, they even have certain premier cru, vintages that come out of the Champagne district. So what you're saying is coffee's the same way.
That is exactly the same. Yep. Exactly the same thing.
For several years in a row, we haven't done the past few years, we actually purchased all of the coffee from one farm in Honduras. So he had, I believe, 3 pallets. Oscar Omar Alonso. Yeah. And I don't remember his last name, but
Omar Alonso. Okay.
We bought all of his coffee. It was probably 1,000 pounds of green coffee. And so we supported that farmer exactly. But it was from that hillside, that farm, and there was going to be no other coffee in the world that had that same just environment that coffee came from. Yeah. So
and not only blends, we also want to have some unique coffees too that maybe you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so that's why having blends is pretty cool where you can mix different coffees, but also having a single origin coffee where you can like pinpoint exactly where it's from.
So if I'm making an espresso in the morning, what do you recommend from Opus?
So we have a specific espresso blend which we created to create this nice chocolatey notes to it, a little bit of acidity up front, but then the dark chocolate notes are kind of come towards the end of the cup. Super smooth. You can drink it by itself, or you can add a little bit of milk for a little bit of like a latte or a macchiato for balance. So
let me ask you guys this. I think we talked about this too before we went on the air. What if people, given the times we're going through with the pandemic and so forth, they want to order product to their home? Can you do that? Mail order? Can you do local deliveries? What do you do?
So that is correct. So it's all through the website. So opuscoffee.com. You can order any of our coffees, including starting subscriptions. But we'll ship anywhere throughout the United States, and we'll also home deliver any of the coffees in Alachua County.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
What about businesses? We talked a little bit about that too. If a business were to reach out to you and say, we want our own brewing station, how would you set that up?
On our website, there's a wholesale form, or they would just send us an email through the website as well.
Yeah, and that's the way to do it. Work with companies, set them up with equipment, set it with high quality coffee.
I think we need to think about
that. Yeah, I know, because at our office, we've got a Nespresso and a K-cup.
Okay,
I know that's the evil word.
And at home, right? I'm having great coffee, but when I go to the office, it's not as good.
Not as good.
It sounds like
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Do you like very alert, high-producing employees?
Yes.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I got it. And it's kind of a nice break when they take a few minute break.
Yeah.
Maybe have them actually learn how to make the roast. Grind it, roast
Promote the collegial spirit.
Do the whole
make coffees
thing,
more.
Exactly.
I like that.
So what do you guys? I have to ask. What's your opinion on the K-Cup? All right, don't be politically correct. Tell us what you think.
So a lot of it tastes stale.
I agree.
That is it's very convenient, but it tastes like I said, stale, and it just tastes very.
It's bland.
No depth.
Yeah, you know when it's roasted. And honestly, you don't know when the last time anyone cleaned that machine, the K-Cup machine, because I feel like nobody has actually cleaned that machine. So you don't know what type of water is going through there.
When we get back.
So it is what it is. I mean,
right.
I don't know.
Well, during the holiday season, I think I need to give my team a gift. Okay, a really
You heard it here,
Gift
folks.
bags. Yes, exactly. For every client as well.
Yeah,
They do that.
Well, maybe we can
that's
have
what we do.
have a
That's the,
custom label.
There we go.
Meldon Law Coffee.
We could.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
The attorney
Okay.
down the street's doing it.
Okay, well,
I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
well, I always like to be first. So
Listen,
that's a
We'll tell
great
them no
idea.
that. Okay.
guys, I am so happy you've been here. Again, I appreciate it very much. Everybody, take a look at opuscoffee.com on the World Wide Web. Check out this great product. I'm vouching for it. I drink it. It's terrific. Again, we want to thank Shane Matthews, who was on the show earlier. We've had a great show, Jeffrey.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're all excited about tomorrow. We got the SEC championship game. And
We sure do.
You know what? We're in the game.
We're in the game.
So
That's
I don't care.
I'm thrilled. I think Kyle still has a chance to, redeem himself for maybe a little bit of an off week. And the team as a whole, though, I think that's what we're all hoping for. They'll pull through.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching the game, and I'm excited.
Too. Want to remind everybody you have been watching Meldon Law and Friends, a service of Meldon Law. Please take a look at our website at www.meldonlaw.com. Our primary practice areas are personal injury cases, auto cases, big truck cases, trip and fall, slip and fall. And we also handle criminal defense cases, DUI cases, and other felonies and misdemeanors. Give us a call anytime, statewide, toll free at 1-800-373-8000. Call us. We'll put you on our newsletter list. It's a great newsletter. It's like this. It's fun. It's loose. Has a lot of great info in it. And we've got our final show of the week next week, I think. That would right. It'll be
final show of the year.
I'm stumbling all over the place today. It's the end of the year thing.
Need some coffee.
Yes, I do. You're right.
Well, let's give a shout out to our Gators. What do we say?
We say at the end of every radio show, go Gators! Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.